All right, good morning, everyone. I'm over here. My name is Jeffrey Wallace. I am behind the curtain. My name is Jeffrey Wallace. I am the president and CEO of LeadersUp, and we are thankful that you took the time to join us this morning to really discuss and to set the stage for what we believe is going to be a transformative movement, a transformative partnership, but most importantly, a transformative opportunity for a cross-section of sectors across our great region of Los Angeles County. I'm not going to be before you long because I'll be back, but I want to introduce one of our core partners of LeadersUp around our work, targeting justice-involved individuals across the county and soon-to-be nation, Dr. Gary Painter. Dr. Painter is a professor at the Sol Price School of Public Policy at the University of Southern California. He also serves as a director of the Sol Price Center for Social Innovation and the newly created Homelessness Research Policy Institute. He has published numerous articles in top journals such as the Review of Economics and Statistics, Journal of Urban Economics, Urban Studies, Journal of Human Resources, Journal of Policy Analysis and Management, and a host of other notable international journals that really concretize the impact of cross-sector collaboration to foster innovations that our global society needs in order to thrive. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our host for this morning, Dr. Gary Painter of the Sol Price School of Public Policy.
Thanks very much, Jeffrey. It's a pleasure to host all of you here today for this really important convening. Jeffrey did a good job of introducing me, so I don't have to share too much more, but I do want to share a little bit about the Price Center for Social Innovation, just so you have a sense of how we have functioned both in terms of our practice and what we're really focused on in terms of being a partner in a positive social change. So our mission is relatively straightforward and something that I'm sure will resonate with everyone here. It's to develop ideas and illuminate strategies to improve the quality of life for people living in low-income urban communities. This DNA came from Price Philanthropy's own investments in a high-poverty community in San Diego called City Heights. It's a refugee community and so forth. So that's always going to be our DNA as a Price Center for Social Innovation. But the way that we do that is going to be different than maybe just in the public policy school writ large. We're going to look at things through a social innovation lens and a social innovation approach. We're going to do kind of our actions in some ways are going to be to partnering with our student populations to kind of connect them to partners in the community that are doing good work so they can provide, pro bono kind of, work and so forth in that way. We have great education programs for that. We have authentic community engagement through a variety of programs. We host the Neighborhood Data for Social Change platform. So if you need neighborhood data in the places that you're working here in LA County, it's a free resource. Just jump online, and we have trainings every month at USC and trainings in the community as well. So if you're interested in hosting such a training, let us know. And the other thing we do is we try to explore new models to deliver social impact. In many ways, that's what brings us to this event and to this partnership. Today, you're going to be introduced to the Future at Work Leadership Network Fair Chance Coalition, which works to develop career pathways for young adults who are disconnected from viable, secure, and permanent career opportunities. One of our three main foci here at the Price Center for Social Innovation is to develop new pathways of opportunity, in particular for people who live in low-income urban communities. Go to the website and look at the other two. But for today, this is where our partnership really kind of comes to light. And it's clearly central to providing good jobs and career opportunities for people that have been disconnected in one way or another, intentionally, unintentionally, from opportunity. According to a report that the Price Center did in partnership with the Mayor's Fund of Los Angeles, it's estimated that there are 73,000 disconnected youth in the city alone, which represents approximately 14% of the city's residents aged 16 to 24. And this term disconnected youth, opportunity youth are often used synonymously. The definition is looking at folks who are currently not in school or working. So when we use that language, we're really talking about a set of folks that, oh, the little music going on. And so I think that's what brings us all to this event, a particular subset of that population, those who have had past encounters with the justice system. So we're committed to solving this challenge and partnering with community partners and social change agents who are doing this kind of work, because our kind of value add, if you will, is the ability to kind of bring social innovation frameworks, which enable us to have rapid learning through pilots and ongoing evaluation to create a dynamic and flexible model for social change. In closing, I want to thank you for your attendance here today and for your commitment to the Fair Chance Coalition. And I look forward to today's program.
Thank you, Dr. Painter, for the welcome and your partnership. We find it a privilege and an honor, and most importantly, very strategic to be able to partner with the University of Southern California around this effort. So just a little bit about LeadersUp. We are a national talent development accelerator. And when you think about what that means, in the context across our nation, we know, as you heard from Dr. Painter, nationally, we have 5.5 million young people that are not in school and not in work between the ages of 16 to 24. That's 1 out of every 7 millennials. Now, why do we think that's so important? Is because millennials will make up 50% of the labor market by 2020. So 1 out of every 7 individuals that are going to be necessary to push our economy and our society and our communities forward are currently not in school and not working, connected to the mainstream economy. Now, when you double click on that 5.5 million, you also understand that about 85+% of those young people are young people of color. Now, when you think about where young people of color live, specifically in Los Angeles, those young people live in communities that are sometimes like homes with no windows. And we know that windows allow us to see past barriers towards opportunity. LeadersUp is in the business of carving out windows in the lives and the communities and cities all across the nation that are shut down and shut out from opportunity. The communities that have been marginalized, that have been traditionally and historically overlooked and left behind. And when you think about the shift in demographics across the nation, where we are moving into a multicultural dominant economy, for African American, Latinos, Asian Pacific Islanders, LGBTQ young people, those that have been historically marginalized have not been included in mainstream society or the systems that the public sector actually are funding to create more opportunity. Number one, that's a call for us all to take arms around a social justice imperative, but also that is a call for us to think about the economic future of our nation and our city. Over the last 5 years, LeadersUp has been able to connect over 5,000 young people to employment for about 100+ multinational brands, generating $72 million of economic impact, shifting perceived liabilities into assets. So when we think about the work that we are set to do today as a launch pad, focusing on justice-involved individuals, which, let's put that in context, 1/3 out of every American in this nation has some exposure to the justice system. That's a 78 to $87 billion issue that is being snatched out of our GDP as a country. Intersect that with a very tight labor market with employers that are thinking, how can we connect to the next generation of talent, is an opportunity as a social entrepreneur we want to seize. Hence our partnership with the USC Sol Price Center for Social Innovation. Because obviously what we've been doing for years has not been working at the system level. However, we have exemplar organizations in this room today like CEO, the Center for Employment Opportunity, the LA Job Corps. We have organizations like the Brotherhood Crusade. We have the LA Chamber of Commerce. We have the Los Angeles Urban League that historically has been fighting the good fight related to ensuring young people and all people that are system exposed have access to opportunity. But what's missing in this conversation as we talk about strategies around diversion and system change and juvenile justice system reform is the opportunities. Because we know that the best way to wedge the revolving door of recidivism is economic mobility. So when we think about the importance of economic mobility and its efforts to really drive young people towards stability, young people towards being able to be new contributors to their community, we saw LeadersUp an opportunity to really galvanize the employers across this region to now recognize justice-involved young people as a viable source of talent. Similar to how veterans have been able to have access to opportunity, similar to how Opportunity Youth has been have access to opportunity, we now see that there is a significant policy window across the county. Our friends at Liberty Hill have been doing a significant job with the Brother Son Selves Coalition to ensure that we put enough pressure and willingly in alignment with the willing leadership across our county to ensure that the juvenile justice system as it exists in LA County is disrupted significantly. It's the largest system in the nation. It costs our county a tremendous amount of money. We could send young adults to Ivy League schools on a 4-year scholarship with the money we utilize to keep someone detained in a facility. Not only is that criminal, but it just doesn't make sense. So today is an opportunity for us to do a couple things. One, it is to welcome you to join and learn more about what we call our Future at Work Leadership Network. Now, as I discussed earlier, there's a shifting in demographics across the nation where employers that recognize, in all organizations, that recognize that diversity, equity, and inclusion is not something that is a nice to do, but it is a competitive strategy. Given the demographics of LA County, which is already a multicultural majority society, but also globally across the world. We understand that United States competitive edge from a global perspective is our diversity because it is a microcosm of global society. So we have been galvanizing employers across the nation over the last year to be a part of what we call the Future at Work Coalition that understands the shifts in demographics demand employers to update their practices related to how they recruit, retain, and upskill the next generation of talent as a competitiveness strategy. Not just a corporate social responsibility strategy, not just a government affairs strategy or public relations strategy, as a competitiveness strategy. And the Future at Work Leadership Network is focused on ensuring that employers know how to win with the next generation of talent and those markets of talent that have been marginalized, similar to the formerly incarcerated. There are opportunities to be seized, especially when we're in a job seekers market. So today, as a part of the Future at Work Leadership Network, we are launching the Fair Chance Employer Coalition, where employers that are equity-minded, that are innovation-forward, and most importantly, that are community-centered understand that it is imperative that they do well and do right by the formerly incarcerated, but broader, the justice-involved young adults and individuals across communities that we all in this room have cared about for years. We are committed to unlocking new markets of talent. We do that by partnering with trusted community entities and system leaders that focus on the most marginalized. We see, not only from a standpoint of ethnic diversity, but gender and identity diversity, as well as background diversity, the importance of ensuring that employers understand how to, from a practice perspective, connect to that next generation, that new market of talent. And we provide professional development on an ongoing basis to ensure that inclusionary practices stretch across the talent acquisition lifecycle of employers to ensure that this talent is not just acquired, but it has the space and the inclusionary context and culture to win with that employer. So we provide tools, tips, and techniques, professional development to ensure that these employers have the practices from their frontline manager to their executive strategy level around how to win with talent. And this network is the launch pad and the convening point of said employers. We launched in San Francisco earlier this year. Now we're launching in Los Angeles, and we'll be launching later on this month in Chicago, Illinois. All three markets that have some of the top, largest quantities of opportunity youth, and also communities that have been left behind by our economy. So when we look at the Fair Chance Coalition, which is a very special initiative we're launching again here in Los Angeles, because we saw an opportunity within the landscape of the great work that is already going on across the county. Again, let me just paint that context. We just had a shift in the LA County's governance of the juvenile justice system, where we are having we have new leadership in probation. We have new leadership around how we're transforming juvenile detention facilities across our county. And this creates a very, very interesting opportunity when you intersect that with Prop 47 at the state level, Prop 57 at the state level, that has reclassified felonies into misdemeanors, and you intersect it also with the ban-the-box legislation that has now moved forward across the entire state. So rather than getting our employers to think about compliance, we want our employers to think about the opportunity that this creates. A significant opportunity to connect to the next generation of talent. So over the next 2 years, LeadersUp is focused on recruiting a minimum of 100 employers that will hire from the justice-involved population. That's something to be happy about. I mean, we need 100 plus more employers. But beyond that, the 100 plus employers, we are focused on generating and connecting a minimum of 1,000 justice-involved young people to employment over the next 2 years as well. That alone will generate millions of dollars back into our economy that can be utilized to provide services and to enhance systems that will prevent as well as intervene other young people and other adults around entering the justice system. Our target is large corporations, but also medium to small enterprises as well, because we understand that there's a significant amount of energy across all levels of businesses that really want to take advantage of this opportunity. And at the end of the day, in partnership with USC, we really want to be able to develop a set of principles and practices that allow employers to best demonstrate their fair chance, to best operationalize that fair chance, and also to champion that fair chance opportunities is not just good for community, but it's also good for business. Again, one of the things that we are working on is constructing tools to ensure employers can build their efficiency around the operations of connecting and keeping the justice-involved population. We want to grow this to a coalition to over 100, but also we want to ensure that it's not just a commitment to action, but we are actually taking action. And when we think about the context that we are in today, you will be next hear from my colleague, Corey Matthews, who's the Vice President of LeadersUp. And we want to provide you some data around the context of this opportunity, because this is not just our opinion, it's a fact. So Corey is going to show you the numbers we recently, we're going to release a report called Just Opportunity. And I would invite you to look at the table tents in front of you because we know there are people who are not in the room that should be in the room. So why don't we leverage our digital capacity? This is a very millennial-run organization, LeadersUp, so it's okay to have your cell phones out as long as you are communicating to those friends and professional colleagues what they are missing via Twitter, via Instagram and Facebook, and utilizing the hashtag, as you can see in the bottom left-hand corner of the slide, Just Opportunity. So Corey is going to provide some context around the research that his team has conducted to really understand how we optimize fair chance employment. But then moving beyond the numbers, because sometimes we sterilize and sanitize these issues away from humanity. We are also going to bring forward 3 different perspectives that will shape how the reentry journey impacts communities. It's important for us as practitioners and leaders to not get so caught up in the numbers that we forget that these are actually lives that are being impacted. These are individuals who have been criminalized based upon biased systems. And we want to provide you some context around how these numbers play out in day-to-day life. And then after lunch, we will bring forward 2 significant employers to talk to us about how did they get to action around fair chance employment and how they created a triple line return on investment as it relates to impacting their business, impacting the individuals that they're working with, and impacting the local economy. So we're going to go through a journey today around the data, around the actual lived experience, and then we're going to provide some context around how everyone, because everyone is an employer in this room, how everyone can get into the game of being a more inclusionary, fair chance employer, and then talk about how we can build this movement beyond the room we're sitting in today. I would like to end my remarks before I turn it over to Corey to share a perspective from a point of personal privilege. Recently, within the last month, my father passed away. Now, this is a new phase of life for me, but significantly, this issue is important because my father was formerly incarcerated. And I watched my father struggle to find employment in order to support his family, in order to rinse off the stereotype of being a ex-offender into being a new contributor, which was his heart's desire. So this work for me is very personal, but also it's very urgent. When we look at the data across our county and our nation that Corey is going to share with you, it really helps us reflect on how we as citizens need to join the ranks that are being led by people like Professor Painter, or how can we innovate new solutions that will right-size how systems in America are working for everyone. So I want to thank you for taking the time to share and sharing your time with us today. I want you guys to all buckle up. I want you guys all to put your thinking caps on, but most importantly, this is a bi-directional dialogue. So if there are things that pop out to you, please feel free to raise your hand and get the speaker's attention, because it's going to take all of us in this room to build upon the great work that has already been started and to take this opportunity to the next dimension. Thank you for your time, and the next voice you will hear is Corey Matthews, Vice President at LeadersUp.
Good morning. How's everyone doing today? Good, good. You all, it is mid-morning, so that means you cannot complain that you haven't had your coffee yet. I want you all to take a quick look at the large, legal size, very nicely designed infographic in front of you. I always believe in sort of the paradigm that we can make data come alive. You know, we are sometimes now in a society where we have so much data that we become information poor. So the thing is here is that I want to ground us all in an understanding of what the stats say, right? Because we can't argue with the facts. But I also want to invite a couple of other folks up. Evan, if you can come up, and Kawan, if you can come up, and I will introduce them to you shortly to tell us a little bit about how this data comes alive in their experiences. And we're going to have a quick, intimate conversation about that, right? So first, I want to call to your attention that we have 2.5 million arrests of young people annually. 2.5 million young people are arrested each year. 125,000 of them will subsequently become incarcerated. That does not include bigger numbers around those who will be placed in juvenile detention centers or any form of residential facility. Those 2.5 million young people are disproportionately represented by young adults of color in communities of color and low-income communities of color. And those young adults oftentimes are arrested for trivial offenses. We have tons of data that talks about the fact that African-American and Latino young men are cited for traffic violations or something where they are just going to arrest them and not necessarily have reasonable cause. And these are the type of things that actually lead to having a criminal record. I want to say that again. Just because you have an arrest, you can have a criminal record. It's not just incarceration. We have so much narrative right now around those who are re-entering society, who need to be rehabilitated and reducing recidivism. But there are millions of more individuals who also have a criminal record and face those same persistent barriers to employment opportunity because of an arrest. Did you know that as many as 1/3 of Americans have some form of criminal record? How many of you all have somebody or know somebody who's been arrested? Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to eyeball. I'm going to say that's about 90% of the room. Everybody knows somebody who's been arrested. That person that's been arrested can face significant lifelong issues in accessing the labor market because of an arrest. Now, I'm going to take you a little bit further. Hold on tight. We found that when we were putting together this report, which will be released in the next couple of weeks, that actually nearly 1/3 of those arrest records don't have any subsequent court data to back them up. Which means that if you are in the system, you may or may not have a court case or anything that says why you were arrested, yet you still have this stain on your background. Can't get around it. It almost sort of feels to me like when you kind of have an issue with your credit report, and you're like, that wasn't me though. Who was that? It kind of feels that same way, something haunting you, something that is tarnishing and messing up your name, and thereby is going to lead to significant consequences as you try and move forward in your employment trajectory. So oftentimes what we're really trying to encourage companies to do is to take another look at the application. Just because the background check comes back unclean doesn't necessarily mean that there's a background there that should lock somebody out of employment opportunity. That, along the dimensions of the fact that we have now a labor market that's increasingly tightening, where it's a job seeker market. You can quit a job today and go get another one tomorrow. We can't no longer afford as a society to just throw away 1/3 of the people that can work otherwise. It's a big deal. It's a rallying call around that. And the impetus of this particular convening was so that we could showcase that now we have a significant policy window via all the Prop 47 and ban the box legislation and all the different things that states and municipalities are doing to encourage and incentivize companies to create fair chance policies. We have a window to change that narrative. I remember just maybe a decade ago where you were virtually unelectable if you in any way, shape, or form looked soft on crime. Nobody wanted anybody to look soft on crime. Now they're saying, well, how can we keep people out of the system altogether? And we see this resurgence of all of these violence diversion programs. So this is all about narrative. This is all about the story that we are trying to paint, the story that we are telling, right? And one of the things that I really wanted to just call to you all's attention, Jeffrey, my colleague, mentioned this earlier around just the losses in just billions of dollars of productivity that's lost because we're not employing the significant and sizable population. one of the other things that comes to my attention is the fact that America remains the global leader in incarceration. We have a prison industrial complex, something that cannot be argued about, is widely understood. We are #1 by far. By far. In the very middle, towards the bottom portion of your infographic, you all will see that we have about a 335 per thousand type of ratio for how many people we get justice involved each year. And we average the amount of incarceration or sort of justice involvement with 13 other countries and found that their average was 29 compared to our 335. So it just goes to show you that this is not global conversation, but it's an American issue that we have to have the right people in the room making decisions about how we're going to change this narrative. And so before I turn it over to Evan and to Kawan to tell us a little bit about their stories, I want to invite one of our strategic partners up from the Chamber, Lisa Small, who can tell us a little bit about their Smart Justice Initiative. As you know, the Chamber is a business advocacy organization, and they have now taken an interest in trying to encourage their members to be a part of it. So Lisa, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Good morning, everyone. So pleased to join you all and to partner with LeadersUp on this tremendous event and to see so many of you committed to this subject this morning. You heard already so many of the facts and statistics that make this such a vital issue for us to be thinking about today, but primarily for us to be thinking about as business leaders, as folks in the room who can really provide these opportunities in a tangible way. You might be thinking, why does a Chamber of Commerce have a full-time dedicated staff and now a department thinking about criminal justice full-time? And that's because we really had the challenge put on our doorstep by advocates in the community that said, if you're going to prepare young people cradle to career for opportunity in the workforce, you need to be thinking about all young people. We think about young people as starting from 0 to 3, preparing them for a lifetime of success in education and workforce. And we were not thinking about young adults in the system, and we weren't prioritizing foster youth. And so we entered into the topic of criminal justice reform really from the help of Californians for Safety and Justice and other partners to advocate for Prop 47. We were the largest and only business organization who came out in support of Prop 47. And because of that, we developed a department thinking about how we can really respond to criminal justice reform issues to mitigate barriers for our employer partners, but also to speak to employers directly about how to address their workforce shortage by being inclusive of all workers. And so this year, we're really excited to launch a new partnership with the Los Angeles County Department of Workforce Development and with the support of other strategic partners. We're launching our Fair Chance Hiring campaign we're really excited about. If you were able to see this flyer when you walked in, this is advertising the opportunity that's available to you. If you didn't have a chance to look at the flyer, please do so on the way out. We're providing the opportunity for employers to have access to subsidized interns between the ages of 18 to 24. Their first 2 months of wages will be fully subsidized. They'll be receiving training and mentorship opportunities throughout the entire program. And the county will be the employer of record. And so we're really trying to take all the guesswork out of putting young people into quality entry-level jobs and to really also provide employers the opportunity to have great talent aid you in your own professional goals. So please come speak to me after the program. My email and phone number is at the bottom of the flyer as well. And I'd love to talk to you about how we can make sure you can have an intern join your company and be a great asset for you and in both advocating for fair chance hiring, but also just getting business done. So thank you.
Thank you so much for that. We have to start somewhere, folks, right? And everything counts at this point. Now we're going to get into the Data Alive portion of the program. And I have to my left Kawan, and I have to my right Evan, who have had some experience with this system. And these two are personally near and dear to me because Kawan and I just found out that we grew up around the corner from each other. And Evan and I get a chance to see each other every day as our offices are co-located. So I just want to hear from you first, Kawan, around what has it been like looking for a job, knowing that you've had something on your record, and some of the angst that you may or may not feel in that process?
Yes, it has been very discouraging for me, looking for a job with the background, just seeing the question on applications and also getting the background check sent back to my house and not getting a call back from employers. So it's very discouraging, and it can kind of scare you away from opportunities that you know that you're fit for, but those employers may turn the other cheek seeing that you have a background.
Evan, can you attest to that? You want to share a little bit about your experience?
Yes, I certainly can. It's very discouraging, like the brother said, to be demonized, criminalized, and basically just shut down and shut out of the workforce. It's paralyzing. It makes you feel hopeless and inhuman. You know, I feel, know, and believe that it is a grand travesty to fill out an application knowing that you're not going to get the job. I didn't even get a call, you know, so it's very, very, very discouraging.
I had another question for you, and I'll start with you, Evan. When you fill out the application for these jobs, what type of jobs are these that you were applying for before you finally got a bite? And about how long were you in the process for?
Well, I went to both UCLA and Morehouse, you know, contrary to popular belief. So, you know, what I went to school for, you know, I'm dealing with law, and every law firm that I filled out an application for, all denied. I was boxed out and shut down. Very, very discouraging. I have to continue to compete and echo this because that's just how it is. Waking up every day knowing that you're going to get shut down, which is predicated on something that you paid your debt to society for. So basically, this is a continuing process, and it's a vicious vacuum to be dehumanized like that.
Come on, can you answer the same question?
Yes, so I have applied for many jobs. I got my AA degree in business management, so I was looking to kind of get into like an office administrative job, just until I can start my entrepreneurial ventures. And out of all the applications that I put in, there was always that fear in my heart that, hey, this background check is going to come back negative. And it just, it would make me actually sad and kind of feel, you know, disfranchised from society, and that I was like not accepted, and I just wanted to be accepted and be able to show my talents to these companies, but I never even got a chance to get my foot in the door. So it's very saddening.
Something you said, Evan, and I do, forgive me, I do want to make sure that you all pay attention to the bios for all of our speakers, which are right in front of you in your place setting. But there's something on the infographic that talks about how half of Black males experience a non-traffic related arrest prior to their 24th birthday. Half. And it's sort of a startling number when you think about why someone might be cited for arrest and sort of these implicit ideas about who they are and what they're about, and do they pose a threat or a danger to society. I personally had an incident like that, and you know what saved me, ironically, Evan, was my Bruin card. I was at UCLA Bruin, and I was pulled over, and I was like, oh my God, I got finals. Here's my card. Don't shoot. All of these things came to mind. So what I'm curious about is, how do we begin to think about the role of stereotypes and stigma and bias and negative perceptions that can impact someone's ability to even just be given a fair shot at making a first impression? So what I want you all to tell me about is the type of, when you finally got in front of someone to interview you and this question came up, how did you react? Go on. The question is, when you got in front of a recruiter or a HR leader and they were interviewing you for a position and the question of background came up, what happened?
Okay, so I was very hesitant to share my background with these employers because I just kind of felt that the offense was kind of not really substantial, or it didn't really have any weight to it, seeing that I was kind of given a chance to like expunge it, and I kind of didn't really want to go through that process because I felt like it just wasn't something that I should have to do when I already put in the 3 years of probation and things like that. So I just didn't really want to disclose it. It was very uncomfortable for me to disclose my background and all the details to it. So I kind of just wanted to ignore it, but it always comes back. You know, it never goes away. So the expungement is an option that I had, and I didn't really want to share that with employers either. So it's hard. It's very hard.
Oh, man. I have to, just basically ride off what the brother just said. It's paralyzing. Very, very, it's horrific. To know that I'm knowing that I have to tell this individual about my past, my background, because they're going to find out anyway. So I was very forthright, let them know, look, UCLA grad, I want you to see me as a person, not this thing that I've been, reduced to. I went to Morehouse. Subsequently, I got caught up in the system. In the remote time, I made some very, very bad decisions as a young man. I was wrongfully convicted. I was given 2 25-year to life sentences for something I did not do. I did 17 straight years before a very powerful law firm by the name of Ivy McNeil and White freed me and waged a year battle and got me out. Under the leadership of the head attorney, Mr. Biden Diggs, who was one of my fraternity brothers, Kappa Alpha Psi. That part. It meant nothing to them. The fact that I was exonerated, my case was expunged, I proved that I was clean, I was still denied. It's horrific. It's something I don't want to see anybody else waking up to every day, because everyone doesn't have the mindset to deal with reality. And that's one thing I thank God for, that I was able to balance everything out and deal with this very, very tragic situation on a daily basis, because I woke up every day, every single day, knowing that I was going to die in prison. It's something I did not do. So that galvanized my mind to deal with the rejection that I knew was coming to me.
There are some things here, discouragement, a lack of trust, stigma, hurt, trauma, just from being rejected and dejected just based off of someone's inability to see you. I want to go back to a site that I had said much earlier in the presentation, which is that nearly a third of arrest data has no court status equivalent to it, which means that in a lot of ways, our criminal justice system presents unjust data, right? And you couple that with the fact that 72% of companies use some form of a background check. And if you are behind the computer just simply looking at whose application got kicked back, do you take a second look? That's less of a policy thing, and that's more of a human individual practice thing. And by hearing some of these stories, I hope that it sort of concretizes for you and showcases that we have to also lead this narrative with a sense of empathy and equity and also economic viability, right? It just makes good business sense to rethink these application practices, as well as to refrain from overlooking so many viable candidates of tremendous potential. So I know I'm getting the signal that we're nearly at close, but I will take 2 questions for the panelists from the audience. If anybody has anything that they'd like to expound upon or ask something more about. I know this is sort of sobering. I promise you we'll have like lunch after, but this is data alive. So I'm man up here in front.
Morning, Clarence Espinosa, Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. One of the things I would suggest, especially for both gentlemen, is to also consider entrepreneurial pursuits. Because in many cases, you might not be able to get into the front door as an employer, as an employee, but as a business person, you might be able to get access to, companies and things like that, producing product or service.
It's ironic that you would say that because that's exactly what I'm doing. Not only am I the host of Impact Hub Los Angeles, downtown in the Arts District, DTLA, I'm the facilities coordinator there. What I do, I sell office space to for-profit and nonprofit social entrepreneurs. And as a result of working there, the entrepreneurial mindset rubbed off on me where I am now the CEO and founder of Skiro Enterprises.
Okay, I do agree with you, sir, and I think that that is a great idea because I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, although I do have a son now, and it's like I have to put food on the table. I have to provide for my son. So if those entrepreneurial ventures don't take off as fast as I want them to, I still have to put food on the table day in and day out. So that also, it has a big effect on me because I really want to provide for my son and put food on the table. And it's hard, I can't even, get the job that I want, paying the pay that I want. I'm forced to do warehouse jobs and things like that nobody really wants to do.
It's a quick follow-up question for Evan. We also know that access to capital is a critical area for entrepreneurs to be able to lean in on in order to get their business off the ground. Could you share with us our story about your journey and even just setting up a business account for your company as someone who was re-entering into society and the turning point for you?
Yes, it was a struggle, brother. It was a paramount struggle, and I'm still struggling. I'm trying to answer this question. The journey was a journey. Unfortunately, I was homeless for 2 years because when I came back to society was no longer the way it was when I left. My whole family, nuclear family transition, friends who extended that olive leaf, so to speak, disappeared, no more support system, too embarrassed, too proud to go back to my family, so I ended up homeless. I became disenfranchised, 100% dissatisfied with the bureaucracy concerning housing. They deemed me overqualified. They said that I didn't fit the core demographic or criteria for being homeless. So I floated in limbo. I became so dissatisfied, I had to start using a unique thought process. I had to think outside the box. What am I going to do to get off the street? I got sick. I had walking pneumonia. One of my lungs was filled. I ended up in USC Medical Center for a week. And that's when I had this vision. I saw a Skid Row font on a hat. How could I take this vision and sell it? So that became a platform for me to use to finance my way out of homelessness. I had to think uniquely because I had to move quickly because I was tired of living on the streets. I was tired of living in a cesspool with rats and cockroaches. I had to get out. I'm telling myself, I know that God did not free me to fall back into another institution of confinement called homelessness. And remember that it mirrors each other, both re-entry from prison and re-entry from homelessness. It was twofold for me, and I had to think quickly. I had someone that took a risk on me, which is Los Angeles Impact Hub's managing director. Her name is Ani Ocasian. She's my mentor. She sacrificed her job for me, and I would be remiss not to mention her in this discussion amongst this August audience because she put everything on the table because she saw something in me I didn't see myself. And she began to nurture that, even by sacrificing herself. And many that are bringing on this reentry program in your respective organizations, you too must become a mentor, because when you mentor, you're mining something out. You don't even know that you have a diamond, and many people are trashing diamonds every day while other people are coming behind them and picking them up. But she allowed me to see something within myself that I didn't even see. And it took a lot of patience. It took a lot of tolerance. It took a lot of work. This is real work right now. This is roll up your sleeves. This is hitting the groundwork. Get ready to work, because it's not going to be easy. You know, it's going to be very challenging, but challenges are very welcome, because challenges bring changes. And Ani did that for me. Ani opened up LA Impact Club to me, and they become my family. I'm emotional right now because I asked Jeffrey a year ago to give me position, brother. I'm not throwing no words at you. I'm not, no name calling. I went to UCLA. I know your fraternity brothers from Alpha. He's Alpha. I'm a Kappa. And I know many of his fraternity brothers. I didn't name. I was like, brother, just give me position. And God has answered my prayers through Brother Jeffrey. And Brother Jeffrey, I applaud you, brother. You are a mentor to me. I watch you every day in your whole organization. And I thank you, and you must be applauded, LeadersUp, for this opportunity.
One of the things that Evan talked about is this perpetual sense of being system involved, systematized programs, just always having to report into somebody or something for basic needs, things that everyday Americans, the other 2/3 who don't have the criminal record, we don't even really have to think too much about. But for many folks who are just vying for basic, simple opportunities, they have so many things that they have to combat in accessing those. And the challenge that we have is not one, as I mentioned at the very beginning of this segment, it's not about having a lack of access to the data. The data is the data. This affects a lot of people. It's the information around what does it look like when you push play on the data. Somebody's everyday life, what does it look like? And where are some of the areas that we can see as places of opportunity for innovation or new practice or new ways of thinking or new ways of conceptualizing how to meet the challenge? And are we willing, we ourselves, to advance those new ideas in wherever we sit respectively within the broader ecosystem, whether it is as an employer or a community-based organization or a system provider or a civic leader, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We all have some sense of power that can be harnessed to transform these very persistent challenges into true possibilities. And I just want to implore the audience here to really just govern yourselves accordingly, given that you now have this insight. On the right side of the infographic, and as you all notice, I've been weaving in the infographic in between, just because data by itself can be boring unless you're geeky like me. But it says that youth with arrest records struggle with lower levels of earning, longer bouts of unemployment, diminished educational levels, and greater risk of destructive family conflicts. And as you talk about both the economic burdens that we have with just lost productivity, right, in the billions each year from not having people who can work, who are physically able to work and have a true heartfelt desire to want to work, but are not able to for all of these other reasons that we've listed. There's one economic component to that. We lose productivity, we lose competitiveness, we lose our edge as a nation. The other big piece of that, though, that's a little bit more implicit is the social burden that we carry, right? One failed system begets the likelihood of another failed system, and so on and so forth, right? If Evan is mentioning that he now went from one system to yet another system, and he's now getting the runaround there, we're lost in inefficiency. We're not serving the people that we have been set up to serve. And we also are crippling ourselves with too much regulatory and compliance issues in order to really truly meet people where they're at. And that should concern each and every one of us as tax-paying citizens. And this is not an indictment on any system, but this is just a awareness raising sort of pedestal moment for how we can think about the power that we all have to harness. There's another component, Juan, I want you to talk about this. Over-policing is one of the things that we call out in our report. And it's not here in the infographic because I ran out of space and they were like, you can't put more stuff in the report. I was like, all right, fine, but I'm gonna still talk about it. There are a number of studies that cite how prevalent policing is in certain communities over others. With more police, you increase the likelihood, and it's not science, this is just deductive reasoning, the likelihood of arrest and subsequent incarceration, et cetera, without any police there, no one gets arrested, et cetera, right? So Kawan, can you tell us about what it means to just navigate the neighborhood as a young person? And if you felt that did you feel any pause around police presence at all? And just sort of help us tell that story a little bit.
Yes, so I actually was bused out to school. My mom bused me out in junior high to Paul Revere. And from there, I went to the feeder school, Palisades. I noticed that there was little police presence in these areas versus in my own neighborhood. I would always kind of have to be mindful of police and just being harassed as a youth. I remember always getting pulled over and being frisked, things like that. Just very unnecessary. I feel like it was very, like they were stereotyping me, my friends, my cousins, things like that. So just being able to see both sides of the field, I noticed that there was actually a larger police presence in my neighborhood, which I feel was the cause of me getting in a felony on my record. I believe if I would have stayed in those areas, I probably wouldn't have got caught up in those things that I had to deal with.
Any questions from the audience? Over here, I'm gonna walk over.
I can yell.
Go ahead.
Juan, I just want to hear a little bit about your breakthrough moment. Evan talked about his and being mentored at the hub, and right here.
Yes, so I can say my breakthrough moment came when I graduated from college and got my AA in business management from Southwest College. That was my breakthrough moment. After I got the felony, I decided to go back to school and increase my skills. And that really encouraged me to kind of do better and just not give up on myself, because I was giving up on myself at a point in time. I felt like this jacket that I had over me would always hinder me. So I kind of had to just look at my skills and abilities and tell myself that I was worth something and that I was capable of being an asset to society and not criminalized based on my record. So that was my breakthrough moment when I went to college. And also I had mentors and LeadersUp. They also helped me as well find, just positivity in my everyday struggle of filling out applications and things like that. So I just had to find people that were doing more than what I saw in my own community, because every day I look out my window, I kind of don't really see opportunity. So being around people that are actually doing things positive, it gives me the strength and the courage to keep on putting in those applications and not giving up, because my mom always told me, somebody's gonna have a heart for you, and they may give you that opportunity. So I hope that all you employers or people that decision makers, that you will look at those with backgrounds and kind of give them a chance. Don't just not give them a call back or anything like that. Give us a chance, because we deserve it.
One final question from the audience. Make sure over here.
On expungement, because I am from the parole department. However, I thought expungement meant that it was off your record. So is there anyone here who can speak on it and why he would have to explain something that was supposed to have been removed from his record?
Thank you, and I apologize for being late. I'm actually Gerald Feeney, so I was supposed to be part of the panel, but I can speak to expungement. I myself had my felony expunged at age 24, I think it was. So I have a felony for a grand theft auto. I was also time I was arrested at a firearm in the stolen car as well. So I was actually lucky enough to have that removed from the case, but having the felony on my record did hinder me from many opportunities. And so when I finally went in to go get the felony expunged, it was a process. I didn't have money to hire an attorney, so I just did it myself, did a lot of reading, figured out how to do it, went through the motions with the Superior Court. And it took a while to actually go through that process, but you go back in for a hearing, and then the DA is still there, so you're still they're still pressing the issues. But if you have a good case behind you to say, hey, this is what I've been doing since then, these are some of the achievements I've made, this is what I've done since then to turn my life around, it really speaks in your favor in that process. But the felony isn't expunged, and according to the paperwork you get after that, you can legally tell employers you have not been convicted of a felony. So it behaves as a pardon and an expungement from the court. So then you can legally say, I have not been convicted of a felony after that. There are certain exceptions, and of course there's times when the judge may say, no, I'm not approving your expungement. But after that, even with the private sector employers, you can tell them you've never been convicted, but from a For any of the government agencies, you still have to let them know that you have a felony. So for me, myself, that limited me in my career growth, obtaining certain licenses, professional licenses, as well as real estate licenses, getting my TSA fast track to go through the airport, that sort of thing. So it can hinder you even after you have a true expungement from the court. It'll still linger from a government standpoint, and that can still hinder you from actually achieving other career growth goals that require licenses. And the juvenile record's a little different. I actually did seal my juvenile record. So before having it sealed, it's technically private after you become 18. No one can see it. But it does still remain there for if there's any further legal action against you, they can still dig into your juvenile record, pull things out, and then once it is sealed, you actually have to go and request that. It's similar to an expungement, have it sealed, but the government can still peek into it when they would like to. So that's my advice there.
Thank you. Thank you.
That answered your question.
Did you know about that, Kawan? What is it? Okay. Evan, you know about that too? Okay, awesome. We are really trying to get to the nuts and bolts of this. I appreciate Gerald's commentary and Lisa's question around expungement, because the vast majority of the young people that we work with who have backgrounds don't even know their rights. They do not know that if it is expunged, they don't have to report it. But when they see the box, they're like, oh, I have to be truthful because it's going to come back anyway against me. And I'd rather take my chance of being forthright and forthcoming as opposed to being sneaky. And this, it's going to penalize me on the back end. LeadersUp facilitates these very dynamic hiring fairs. And I say dynamic because it is truly multifaceted. I mean, we have barbershops, dress, for success stations, and, a whole lot of other things that we call it an amusement park for job seekers. And what we're really doing is creating a space for young people and employers to meet face to face without any of the red tape. And one would think of that as extremely transformative or groundbreaking, but in reality, it's hinged upon this idea of just decency. We've all been, for those who went to university, to college fairs where you can go and meet with an employer in your pajamas and you just rolled out of bed because you're hungover from the night before and get a job, right? And then following that, you go back and you do your paperwork. We wanted to create the same opportunity for folks who are not at university campuses to just come and meet an employer face to face without having to worry about them having an application that says whether or not that box was checked. And the results have been astounding. Another thing I could not put on my infographic because my communications team would kill me if I tried to. But we also found that those who are just as involved had about a 65% interview to hire ratio, higher than the 52% that other folks had that are non-justice involved. So when we dug a little bit deeper, we found that it was because, and this is on the infographic, you all, this is literally the last stat, and then I'm out of your hair, but that those with individual criminal records, this is right under the 72%, halfway down to your right-hand side, have much higher retention rates, are no more likely to be involuntarily separated, and are far less likely to leave voluntarily. They were able to communicate commitment in those interviews. That's what brought them over the hump when it came to landing the job. I want to work here. I will be your most loyal employee. And our hiring fair recruiter was like, yes, them. I want that person. They didn't know at the time that that person had a background. But what we found is that in that interview, you were able to tell the story and truly convey commitment. And at the end of the day, who doesn't want a tenured employee that can be groomed and developed and upskilled and promoted to supervisory status? That's a win for everybody. A win for the young person, a win for the business, and a win for the community that the young person comes from. So I wanted to say that, and then I want to allow each of our panelists, Joe, you included, to just If you were to talk to another person who has a criminal record about their job hunt, what do you wish somebody would have told you, and what would you say to them based on that? What would you say to that young person who was in the position that you have been in? You want to start? You want to come back to you? Come on back to you. Okay, Gerald, let's start here. We're going to go this way.
Sure, I'm happy to touch on that. I think one of the gentlemen here touched on it just now about how you view yourself. And I think coming out of this system, again, for myself, first arrest was when I was 12 years old. It's continued on to my last arrest being when I was 21. And so I viewed myself as someone who was a criminal. I had that view of myself. I looked very different at the time. I didn't wear suits. I didn't even know how to buy a suit. I was just from a very different lifestyle. Had some visible tattoos on my face. So I was just accustomed. When you're in there, you're not treated like a professional when you're incarcerated, right? When you're in juvenile hall, you got to walk your hands behind your back. They'll shackle you up when they're transporting you. When you're in the Twin Towers and Wayside, you got to keep your hands in your pockets, walk along the wall. So I mean, you're not treated as a professional. You're not treated with a whole lot of respect. So you come out and you're thinking, well, why should I expect any different now that I'm out? So you don't necessarily see yourself as someone who really merits respect, and you kind of have this stigma. And I think what I was speaking to that someone mentioned earlier was that you almost have to view not until you make these changes and view yourself as someone who has now redeemed themselves, paid their debt to society, and is now ready to re-enter society in a way that's productive. When you don't, unless you forgive yourself and then allow yourself to be seen as someone who's now an asset to the community or to the population, it's really hard to get over that, because you really do tend to see yourself as someone who's just not worthy of a regular life or regular privileges. So you kind of have this stigma. And like myself, going to school, getting my associate's degree, bachelor's degree, those things really help me view myself differently, so where I could enter with confidence, speak to employers, say, hey, I know a thing or two about business. I have a little bit of confidence. I've forgiven myself. So I think anybody coming out from that situation and trying to reenter society has to take those steps to say, okay, accept the fact that, hey, I paid my debt. The judge gave me a conviction. I served the conviction. Now I'm ready to reenter, and I'm going to do things to really better my life. So as you start getting those wins, you'll start looking at yourself differently, and that in turn allows other people to see you differently and says, you know what, this person's redeemed. This person's ready to enter the workforce as someone who can contribute. And so it's really forgiving yourself and then enabling and giving reasons for the rest of society to forgive you as well.
Okay, so I would let anybody in my shoes, I would let them know just to not give up. Just keep on putting in applications. Don't give up. If one company shuts the door on you, you just go to the next one. Get as many interviews as you can. That way there's a higher rate of you getting hired. I had a job at LAX, just to kind of back off of what you said. And they didn't even let me know that I would have to go through the TSA check. So I worked for this company for about 5 months, and I worked my butt off. I worked very hard, like very hard. Where to the point my pride was kind of taken away when they told me that I didn't pass the badging, and that really hurt me a lot. So I will also tell anybody else in my shoes not to let it affect you, and just keep a positive mind, and keep going for the stars, because somebody's gonna open that door for you and give you an opportunity. And once you get that foot in the door, that's all you need. Yes, I am. I'm working for a warehouse currently in the city of Vernon, and the pay is okay, but I'm still striving, still putting in applications, because I know that my worth is way more right now. And not anything against warehouse work or anything like that, but just what I went to school for and all that I know I'm capable of. I have dreams of doing way more with my life, and the felony has slowed me down, but I'm not going to give up.
Yes, coming from the situation I came from, I developed spiritual. I have deep spiritual ties. I would tell someone to just pray, because God answers prayers, and I'm a living testament to that. And despite any obstacle that may be thrown in your path, run through it. I ran through it, and I'm still running. And as a result of running through it, I'm the host and facilitator at Los Angeles Impact Hub. As a result of running through it, I am now the CEO of my own company, in which I will be employing the homeless, in which I will be hiring the at-risk youth, in which I will be hiring those who are re-entering society. I am establishing my economic infrastructure to bring out the best in humanity.
One more round of applause for the panelists. And you all are dismissed to grab your lunch and bring them back to your tables. Thank you for your time this morning.
Lunch is located in the back table, so feel free to grab your sandwich and salads, and we'll get started momentarily.